Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Does he have it? Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, look at the toss! Haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 10 of the iFL League Season 6 F3 Series. Round 10 live from the Canadian Grand Prix. I am James Parfitt. I'm going to be joined in the booth by the one, the only Kelsey Gill here this evening, who's going to be alongside me once more to bring us all the action of this epic circuit. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting, and let's see how it turns out. Current scores on the doors at this moment in time are, as you can see on your screen, Alex Johnson is out in front, and he has pretty much probably wrapped this up on 333 points. Lee Aberdeen cemented his place in second on 302 with Andre Salander, Kevin Zwemstra, Kevin Vermont and Rachel Jimenez with Mackenzie Roon all fighting it out for that third spot. Jake Potts, Frederick Højgaard Larsen, Darius Rakauskas, Roman Ratu, Thomas Siros, Vakaris Vilius and Alexander Rivera round out the top 14. We are just about to finish up on to qualifying. The cars are getting up on the grid. This will be the grid for this race. Kevin Zwemstra will be on pole with Alex Johnson in second, Andre Zalander third, with Lee Aberdeen in fourth, Mackenzie Roon fifth, Silas Craig Wojcik in sixth, Jacques Potts 7, Rachel Jimenez 8th, Darius Rakauskas 9th, Frederick Højgaard 10th, Thomas Urbanonas in 11th, and Carlos Navarro will be on 12th and the last man on the grid. It's a bit light on the grid here this evening, only 12 cars, but let's have a chat with Mr. Kelsey Gill here this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Gill. How are you?
Good evening, James, and good evening, Tony Jimenez in the chat as well. Hello, hello, hello. We're in the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Canada, one of my favourite street circuits that appears on the Formula One calendar. It's going to be a hell of a session. It's going to be hard to pass. It's going to be a very mistake-heavy track, I think, perhaps. So drivers are going to be very much on the limit. And, well, Johnson, he's got his hasn't really got his work cut out for him, has he? Unless he decides he's going to crash in the next 4 races to come.
Yeah, well, I'd be very surprised if he does do that. We're just waiting for Rachel Jimenez and Mackenzie Roon to get on to the grid. There is Mackenzie Roon, just waiting for Rachel Jimenez now as we're going into the last 15 seconds of gridding up here. And let's hope we do end up getting a full grid. We do at the moment. Kevin Webster from the Alcantech by Nyman Racing is on pole. We're going to be up and running. The lights are going to be coming on. 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's green, green, green here in Canada. And it is Webster and Johnson and Zalander and Aberdeen. All the Alcantech boys are surrounding the top 5 at the moment here as well. Everybody makes it through cleanly of turn 1. But Kevin Webster's got the jump on everybody. Lee Aberdeen nestled in here once more. He's trying to have a go up at the back end there of Android Zalander. He's got Roychek right behind him. So let's see how that one breaks away. But at the moment, it's an Alcantech 1 to 5 here, Kelsey. And a great job for everyone on the start.
Yeah, very clean start for this track. It's easy to get a little bit of argy-bargy going on in those first couple of corners, especially you go into turn 1 a fairly sort of mid-speed as drivers are hurtling their way down one of the few straights that are on this circuit, and side by side now through the 3rd chicane as they go along and then down towards this hairpin. But it's a circuit that's dominated really by those tricky chicanes that you've really got to nail. You've really got to attack them as well to get the best out of the track and best out of the car as well. And that's what makes it so hard to pass around here. It's narrow, there's these chicanes that just really break up the lap, and if you've not got the run on the exit of one chicane, if you're not alongside by the time you get to the next one, you're not going to make a pass. But a clean start from everybody.
Yeah, you see Alex Johnson sitting in 2nd at the moment. He's got Andre Zalander up right in front of him. We jump on to the front wing of Zalander as we're going down the opening start finish straight here before we go into turn 1. Hard on the brakes very, very shortly. There we go. We've got to hook up that apex. Otherwise, it's going to cause us problems to get out of turn 2. Round we go now on this run down into 3 and 4. The quick right left. It's a very fast right left here. They can just about dab and let go. They've got to stay away from the wall on the right hand side here, but they have managed to at the moment. And these front 5 here at the moment, Kelsey, separated by not a lot on the board. And as you can see on the left hand side at the moment, Craig Wojcik's up 1, Potts up 1, Rakowska's up 1, and Navarro up 1 as well. But it's all getting very, very close, as there is literally about 5 seconds between the top 10, which is not a lot at all here, Kelsey, at all, is it really, when you're talking about this many cars?
No, not really. It's not much of a gap at all. Yeah, top 4 cars, the Alcantech boys once again. It's been the story all season, hasn't it? The 2 Alcantech teams. You've got Alcantech by MW Race Consulting and Alcantech by Nyman Racing, with Zemstra, I think it's Zemstra and Aberdeen representing the latter team. And then you've got Johnson and Zalander representing the former, the two Swede drivers, or Swedish drivers, if I should correct myself to say it properly. But Zalander actually doing pretty good thus far on the opening laps. He's normally, the trailing Alcantech car, but he seems he's holding off P3 for now. He's got Lee Aberdeen behind, who's just set the fastest time on the board. So there'll be a nice little shuffle or fight between these drivers, I think, with Kevin Webster out there at the moment, just controlling the pace. I think Johnson, he won't get too aggressive, I don't think, but that's not to say if he sees that opportunity to make a move, he won't go for it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. What do you do in this situation, though? Because technically these are all the same teammates. You've got the Alcantech boys 1 to 5, even Craig Roychek's here as well. So what do you do in the way of the racing? Do you still compete with each other? Do you sit back and think, well, he's my teammate, I can't really go for it? Me personally, I would come into this and say to everybody, right, enough. So, we're not a team going into this now. Yes, we're fighting for the team championships, but right about now, we're going to pick up a race, because there is 5 of them and they are very dominant here, and that's the thing. I think it's going to be tough for anybody to break into these 5, but surely they've got a race between themselves, haven't they?
Yeah, they do. I guess the best way to look at it, in all honesty, is, I guess, take Red Bull and AlphaTauri, or I guess Toro Rosso when they were Toro Rosso, for example. They're essentially the same team, albeit one is the slower of the two. But I think, you know, if you're in two different teams, go for it. I mean, yeah, you're both racing under the Alcantech banner, but I think, you know, you've got to go for glory, haven't you? You've got to make it more exciting. And whether or not you know, one team wins over the other, Alcantech has still got 5 cars in the top 5, so I don't see why they shouldn't go racing with one another, and it'll just make it all that more exciting as well, especially at a track like this. I mean, these Formula 3 cars are much smaller and a bit more, I don't know, not as nimble as that was Room, just getting a little bit through there. It's ice through the exit of that chicane, and I think Potts is going to have a go here. Just draws alongside, side by side they go as they come underneath the bridge into the braking zone now for the next part of the chicane. It's the inside for Potts. That's an easy move done. There's no real defending on the outside of that corner because it just closes out, doesn't it? The curb comes in, and if you hit that white bit, you're gone.
Yeah, exactly. And Tony Jimenez there, are there team orders? Well, I'm not really sure how they would play that team orders. The problem is obviously Alex Johnson's out in front by nearly 31 points. Lee Aberdeen's in second by just shy of 100. And then you've got Zalander and Zwemstra. And the only one that can really challenge them guys is Rachel Jimenez at the moment and Mackenzie Roon. Now both of these are Mackenzie Roon sitting in 6th place. He's got back past Potts and Jimenez is down in 10th. So I don't know if team orders would really make a difference. I can safely say I don't think it would, because, you know, for anyone else, it's not going to really bump them up and have a go at them. For Mackenzie Roon, yes, if he can get there, he's got 23 laps still remaining, but he has got this man, Jake Potts, tucked up right behind him, and that alone is going to be a tough one for Roon to get, obviously, drop Potts from that Knox E-Motorsports team. It's very tough. Potts has shown that he's got pace this season.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's had some great moments of pace, and he seems to be really put together around this circuit. Gilles Villeneuve inside now, defends Roon, back onto the racing line. There's no attack yet from Potts. He's happy to sit behind the orange car ahead of him and just wait for his moment. That's what you've got to be around this circuit. You've got to be patient, because the last thing you want to do is get frustrated and end up making a mistake, because it's so easy. You know, it looks like there's a fair bit of runoff around this track, but believe me, this is a street circuit. Because it's not, you know, it's not as closed in as the likes of Monaco, for example, but those walls are always there. They're always present to get you. And if you dip a wheel off the grass, you may end up spinning. If you get a bit too excited on the throttle, perhaps coming out of one of these chicanes, you're going round. You take a bit too much curb, you're going to go flying. And if you go a little bit too wide at that corner, then you're going to hit the wall of champions, which many a driver have put their name to in a very long time. So you don't want to do any of that. You've got to stay patient. You've got to try and just, I guess, drive with your head, I suppose, and just make sure that you're staying as within the limits of this circuit as you possibly can. Because one other thing you'll get easily around here are off tracks, and it's often dubbed a track limits Grand Prix for that very reason.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's the thing is, the off-track rule really confuses me at times, and it confuses me in the basis that it's so different from circuit to circuit. You know, I'd love, you know, just to flat out base the circuit up, stick a meter line around the whole of the circuit. Don't get me wrong, I know it's probably not easy. Stick a meter line around the whole of the circuit, inside and out, and literally just pull it out a meter. Have it as a 1 meter line around the whole circuit, so you've got literally about a meter to basically go. If you go anywhere after that, it's a slowed down bar the off track. But where it is so varied from here to the Red Bull Ring, which, as we know, you literally sniff at a curb and you're going to be done, as we're on board with Craig Roychek here, with obviously Lee Aberdeen in front as they go through into past the Wall of Champions. Nobody's hit that so far, but I would love to see that. Just a standard thing, a meter line on the edge of the circuit, pull it out a meter, jobs are good, and all tracks are the same.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a hot topic of conversation at the moment, actually, track limits. You know, if you've been following any of the Austin Grand Prix, or the US Grand Prix, the official one, I suppose, in Formula One, they've been talking about track limits a lot, and it's, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think the late great Charlie Whiting had a sort of rule where some areas of the track were considered areas to look out for track limits, and some areas weren't too bothered. He, I think, dubbed it a lasting advantage was what it was dubbed, if you were to go off at a certain point and overtake a car perhaps, or go faster on a qualifying lap, so you get your lap time deleted. Whereas now it's those, you see those white lines on the edges of the track, that's your track limits, as far as Formula One's concerned, at least. At the moment, if you're speaking of the, you know, the Formula One game or sim, if you want to go as calling the F1 Codemasters game sims as well known as they are, but yeah, it's an odd one. There's got to be consistency, but there's got to be something that is reasonable. There's got to be some sort of middle ground, I guess. And yeah, perhaps having a line, a meter of space where you say, right, you go past this meter, you're considered off track. So that's your limits there. But it's a tough one, in all honesty, because not all areas of the circuit you need to worry about it. Like here, going down the straight, you don't need these sort of track limits lines unless somebody's, you know, going right off the grass, right up against the wall, which I don't understand why you would, to be honest.
No, it's just such a contentious topic due to the fact of it's so varied. And, you know, yes, I know people are going to sit back and say to me, well, James, it needs to be varied because every track is different. Yes, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, from the extremes of being able to run, say that corner there, for instance, is like turns 6 and 7 at the Red Bull Ring, where it goes left and right round the ball. You know, that you can take loads of that curb before you even think about getting it off track. And then at other tracks like this, for instance, you know, you might sneeze at it and you get it off track. And that's the difficult thing. It's such a varied situation. And me personally, you know, yeah, stick a meter around the outside and say, right, that's your off-track limit. Or sit back and go, do you know what? You go anywhere past that white line, there's going to be an off-track. And that's going to be at every circuit. You know, it's contentious. There's no right and wrong way, I don't think. And that's the thing. I can't particularly say that there's going to be a right and wrong way, as we've just seen Greg Wojciech here make a wonderful mistake and end up into, yes, he did. He hit the wall and then he had to jump back to the pits, did Wojciech. So unfortunately, that's one of the Alcantech boys gone down there. I think he just approached that a little bit too fast, Kelsey, and ended up a little bit too close all of a sudden. You know, look. Oh,
there he goes.
Yeah, I think he hit the brakes.
Concentration.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately, and I think that's the reason he's in the pits, and he's still in the pits now as well. Don't forget, it's a full reverse for race 2 for that brief 7-lap sprint race we've got coming up after this once more. It is a full reverse there, so we'll see how these guys cope with that one coming through the back of the field, going past the likes of Tony Urbanaz and Carlos Navarro. Rachel Jimenez is there from Loomis Esports, Frederick Højgaard Larsen, Darius Rakauskas, of course, Jake Potts, who's trying to chase down Mackenzie Roon, who's trying to chase down Lee Aberdeen. That gap has come down to a second now, so Mackenzie Roon is slowly eating out time at the moment.
Yeah, this would be an interesting little fight, actually. I think, you know, Potts is quite well put together on this circuit. Mackenzie Roon as well. I think he doesn't qualify as well as he might, well, as well as he probably should do, but when he comes to the race, I think he comes alive a little bit, and he gets into a rhythm, I think, faster than some of the other guys, and then he's able to put in some decent lap times, although he is prone to a mistake from time to time, so yeah, he'll have to watch out for that as he goes. But it doesn't look like Lee Aberdeen's all put together. He's normally been chomping at the heels of Johnson in the other Alcantech team, but he seems a little bit off the pace around this track. Perhaps this isn't exactly the circuit that's to his liking. Perhaps he doesn't enjoy the narrow and very sort of broken up circuit of this Jules Villeneuve track in Montreal, which it can be a challenge. You know, it's not easy. You've really got to be on the limit and really got to be as, you know, precise and just present as possible if you're going to make lap times work around here.
Yeah, it looks fairly straightforward, does this circuit, and I think that's one of the things. You know, you drive a little bit, you turn right, you turn left, drive a little bit more, you turn right, turn left, drive a little bit more, you turn right, turn left, drive a little bit more, you do one big swing of a right-hander, and then you're on a straight, and then you got the same again, right, left, you know, and apart from turn one, that actually goes left, right, everything else goes right, left, you know. So I think at the end of the day, it's comes across as straightforward, but if you don't nail this, it's gonna put you in the wall. It's gonna put you in the grass. It will put you somewhere else where you don't want to be, especially coming out of that chicane 8 and 9. If you miss that up, it's gone completely. Track temperatures is there, 69 degrees Fahrenheit on the track at the moment. Obviously 9:52 in the morning on October the 14th, 2023. So that's the current track temperature here as well. As you can see that on your right-hand side. You know, the guys have got their pit stops to make as well, so they're going to have to go in and make a stop. Darius Rakauskas chasing down Rachel Jimenez here as well. So Jimenez has got to try and get a little bit of a wriggle on, otherwise Rakauskas is coming. However, he has just made a mistake and lost about half a second away from Rachel Jimenez here as well. But Alex Johnson, Kevin Swebster and Zalander still within about that 1.5 second gap.
Yeah, well, Craig Vollick has just let us know in the chat that Lee was having some connection issues, ghosting and jumping in front of me before ghosting out again, making me hit him on the screen and sadly ending my race. That is a sim racer's worst nightmare. I can't tell you how many times I've been stuck behind a car that is disappearing and reappearing and popping up as Johnson getting ever closer to Zwemstra behind the car. He's not quite close enough yet. Can he get a better run as they go in towards turn one? Doesn't quite look it, but he is approaching as they go in. I don't think he's going to go for this move here. It can be a bit risky, but yeah, you don't want to be stuck behind a car that's zipping in and out because you just can't tell where they're going to be. And I do feel for Greg Vollick actually, because that's an awful way for your race to end. Yeah,
it is. I think that's the thing. It's so difficult. 21 degrees. It's very cold. Well, they are in Canada in October. You know what I mean? Let's give it a little bit here, Tony. It's not going to be 80 degrees out there on the track, is it? Let's be real. Canada's cold in the winter, mate. You know? So, yeah, let's keep it within the realms of realism as best as we can. But these three here as well. Yeah, blinking cars is basically a blinking pain. I'm not going to lie. But the problem is where you get everybody connecting from all over the world, you end up at some point with somebody with that issue. Kelsey, you know, that person in the car doesn't know it's happening unless somebody has told him that it's happening. He obviously can't do anything about it while he's sitting in a sim. So it is a shame in general that these things happen, but they do happen. You know, and it is very, you know, it's a shame. Brolic, I do appreciate it is a shame for you there, sir, and hopefully we'll see you back in the sprint race, really. But yeah, it's just one of them things that unfortunately happen as we're on lap 12 of 28. Zwebstra, Johnson, Zalander, Aberdeen in the background, Mackenzie Roon, Potts, Højgaard Larsen, Jimenez, Rakauskas, Navarro, and Urbanonez there as Darius Rakauskas has just gone off the side of the circuit here, and unfortunately it looks like he's ooh, big old tomb. No, you're gonna spin it up. There we go. Does manage to keep it in the right direction. He does lose a place in the process, I think, as well, does Rakauskas. So yeah, very tough, but that's one of the dangers of the circuit, isn't it? And that's the thing here, Kelsey. It's not just plain sailing, even getting it down into turn one.
Yeah, I mean, all of these chicanes are very misleading. They're quite tricky. I don't even think I can say one of them's easier than any other because they're all tough. Probably the easiest corner, let's say, is this hairpin here, but even that's difficult as well. With turn 1, you're slowing down for that first part of the corner, then you got to slow it down even more, hug the inside curb, get your car rotated around, and then get on the power to launch yourself down to the next chicane where, you know, you're going downhill into this chicane, so you've got to brake just enough, carry the minimum speed in, and then not go too far over the limits there, because it's very easy to get yourself an off track at that part of the circuit. It's a quick flick right and a left, and then you round this high speed right-hander that's just slightly curved, and then you go through another left-right complex where the track feels like ice around there. Trying to get on the power for turn 7 is an absolute nightmare, no matter what sort of car you're in. Is if you get just that little too much, the rear end's not going to like it, and you're going to end up going straight around, and then you're going straight down to the next part of the chicane, where the curbs are absolutely lethal. 8 and 9, if you get on those white parts of the curb, they're going to send you absolutely flying. So you've got to really make sure you miss those parts of the track, and then you've got to try not to get brake too late into the hairpin. Then you've got to make sure you're focusing on your exit, because it's a long way to the final couple of corners, where here again it's such a quick flick right, flick left, and there's those white curbs there that are going to catch you out, and if you go just too much onto those, then you're going to be launched in these Formula 3 cars. They're very light, they're very small machines, so they're not going to take those curbs well.
Yeah, definitely. As you can see, we're sitting on the front left of Johnson's front wing at the moment. This is what he is seeing. This is what Zolander's seeing, trying to close up here as well as we're coming into that wall of champions. We've had some pit stops already. Potts and Højgaard Larsen have made their pit stops on lap 14. Mackenzie Roon and Lee Aberdeen are still where they are at the moment. Roon's gone into the pits as well. Tony Urbanonaz is closing down on Carlos Navarro from Inten Sim Racing here. Both of these guys are battling it out for 10th and 11th place. Urbanonaz is in a kind of a bit of a weird position here, because if he takes Navarro, he's going to end up on the second row of the grid. If he doesn't take Navarro, he's going to end up on the front row of the grid. So where does he go? Does he or doesn't he?
Oh, I'm not sure. It's a tough one. You got to try.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I would have thought, but it is a hard one, because you think, well, I'm going to get past it, but then I'm going to be on the second row. Oh, there we go. Navarro's made it easy for Urbanonaz. Urbanonaz has just gone through, taking the position anyway. Rachel Jimenez is on her way out here. And I don't believe, no, Urbanonaz is not going to get close enough, and he's still got to make his pit stop once more. But Jake Potts is the first man to make his pit stop here. And let's see if he can gain up past anybody else in front of him. The top 5 have not made their stop at the moment. So let's see what happens once more here as well. Tony Jimenez, I'm glad you're laughing about it, but it is cold in Canada in winter.
Oh yeah, very cold. I was on holiday in Canada actually this summer. I have a friend out there, and I stayed with him. And I didn't experience the winter, although I do intend to go there in the winter just to see what it's like, and perhaps go visit them again. But on their fire hydrants, they've got these little, well, I say little, they're about these plastic signals, I guess you can call them, or I guess they're made of very thin, cheap metal, but they extend upwards from the fire hydrants. And I was wondering what they were, because obviously we don't have those over in good old England. But I was told that when the snowplows come along, that's to mark where those fire hydrants are, so the snowplows don't go ploughing in to the fire hydrants. They're markers so that when the snow gets as high as it was, and these things are about just as tall as me, and I'm about 6'1", so it's, you know, the snow gets pretty high out in Canada. And as well, I was in Toronto, and there's a canal that freezes over, and I think is either the largest or the longest ice rink in the world. Nice.
I think you would love to be out there in the winter, skiing, you know, s'mores by the fire. I don't even know if, I don't know. Roon did make a mistake. He did make a mistake, yes, did Mackenzie Roon. And unfortunately, he has put himself into the pits. He's going to go over throttle that. That's going to go round. It is. He almost kept it out. Almost, and unfortunately for Mackenzie Roon, he is now in the pits with a 1 minute 45 already. Alex Johnson's now in the pits, so it is about what Potts is going to be able to do here. Is Potts going to be able to get near Johnson? He's looking a little bit too far back at the moment, considering Johnson is still in the pits. He's on his way out now, and I think he is going to be able to do that successfully over Jake Potts, and he has. Potts isn't even over the line, so unfortunately there, Potts doesn't make the jump, but can he get Rakauskas when Rakauskas takes his pit stop? And now Zalander and Zoextra are out in front nearly by about 5.5 seconds over Aberdeen. So let's see, as Aberdeen's Webster and Zalander not pitted here, Kelsey, yet, and they're coming into the last 11 laps.
Yeah, you know, I think the undercut around this circuit is actually deceptively difficult. I know it's if you're in a group of cars like as Webster, Johnson and Zalander were, it's perhaps an idea to go for it. You get yourself some clean air, get yourself out of the dirty air of the cars around you as well, and just some clear track space to just put in the lap times and just close in on your fellow drivers. It's it's tempting to go for, but where the pit exit is, you actually miss the first 2 corners, which gives you so much time to sort of gain on the others on the, or I guess protect from the undercut perhaps. And here's Johnson now. You see that you've had Zwemster, Zalander, Aberdeen. They've all come into the pit lane. What's going to happen? I think they're going to be out just ahead, or they might even be fighting. But Johnson's been nipping at the heels of Zwemstra all race long. And even Salander's been up there as well. I don't know what he had in his Weetabix this morning, but he certainly had something to give him some extra pace out there. But here they come, out of the pits already. And Johnson, there he is, just making his way through too. And he's got back right to where he was.
Yeah.
So it's as you were, gents.
Yeah, well, Zalander didn't quite jump Johnson, and Johnson didn't quite jump Zalander. Oh, Andre Zalander. Slight. Steady. Steady. Højgaard Larsen is the next one. He's a little bit further back, though. He should be all right. There's been contact down into turn 1 as well. What has Rakauskas been up to? It looks like Rakauskas did make contact, or has spun in some shape or form. That was just rushing to get out of the pits, that was. That's trying to keep in front of Rachel Jimenez, and he didn't manage to do that, unfortunately, either. Zwemster and Johnson still going at each other here, and not long to go, going into the last 10.
Yeah, these two have been battling all along, actually, and well, Johnson's got himself ahead of Zwemstra finally, but Zwemstra seems to have a bit of pace. He's closing. Look how quickly he's closing as well. He's almost right in the diffuser of the car ahead of him, but he's not going to be able to go for the pass here. It's very hard to go too wide into that corner. It's not recommended at all, especially since this is an older iteration of the circuit. Those curbs aren't as lethal on the circuit in its current iterations, I believe, but they're still... there's still some pretty nasty bumps there, if they're not as high as they currently are. But yeah, going for passes there, not recommended. But I think Swemster's going to try and fight this all the way to the very end. But Johnson, he is the fastest man out there on track. His fastest up to 29.4, with Kevin Zwemstra on a 29.7. Lee Aberdeen's on a 29.7 as well. And then Andre Zalander, well, he's fastest up as a 29.5, but he is now in the pits. Shipping positions, currently in P8.
Yeah, he is at the moment after making that mistake for Zalander. He's gone down to P8 here. This is basically the closest battle on the track at the moment. Can Zwemstra clear Johnson? Let's have a look and see how Johnson did it. Wow! That's round 8 and 9. I believe that is round 8 and 9. And then Johnson on the left-hand side in that number 1's going to have the inside line down into the hairpin. And Zwemstra's just not going to have any answer for that one. So great job from Johnson there to do it in 8 and 9, which is one of the toughest places to overtake.
Yeah, it is, and you could see, I think it was Zwemstra's car, he was mounting that curb on it. He would have had to take it very, very careful going over that, because he wouldn't have wanted to get too excited on the throttle. And props to him, actually, for drawing out of that corner still side by side with Johnson as they went into the hairpin. I mean, I think it was a losing battle at that point, but he may as well have tried to stick it to him if he could. But he's going to stick behind him for now. He's just sat about 9/10, so he's actually dropping back from Johnson, and I think this could be wrapped up if he gets himself into a second. There it is. He's just got to that second gap, and Johnson looks like he's going to run away with this one now.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately, there. I think these battles are going to be done. It's going to be about a battle of survival, I think, for Rachel Jimenez, currently sitting in 6th place there. She is going to be getting some nice little points in this feature race as well, and that will allow her to hopefully move forward in the standings. So Rachel in 6th place will get 16 points, currently sitting the same as Kevin Vermont. So 16 onto that will be 205. That could jump her up a place over Vermont, who is not here, of course, and over Mackenzie Roon, who has lost time behind her there. Jake Potts sitting in 4th at the moment. He will score 20 points, so that will put him on 175. So not enough to jump Jimenez, but possibly should be enough to jump Mackenzie Roon here as well. So there's going to be some swapping about in this race. What's going to be happening in the sprint race? Well, we're going to find out in 7 laps time, after probably Alex Johnson has wrapped up another win here and walked away with 30 points.
What I don't want to see in the sprint race is everybody getting a bit too overexcited.
Yeah, it's
one circuit you don't want to do that.
No, the sprint race for us, I think, has been almost a bit of a bane of contention. And that's partly due to the fact of the nature of the top 12 reverse. Now, normally there obviously is there's more cars than this today. You know, they're normally up at the 20-25 mark, and the top 12 puts people in the middle of the pack. But it kind of, it's weird, isn't it? Because it does end up being, at points, and I think I'm probably being honest here, it does end up being quite chaotic. Now, I don't know if Craig Rollick has decided enough's enough, I'm not going to go in because I'm going to have pole for the sprint race, right? Because, you know, that's got to be on his mind. He's got to be sitting there thinking, well, I'm at the back anyway, I might as well just sit here and take pole once more. Not going to lie, I would probably think about it as well, Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. To be honest, I wasn't sure if you don't finish a certain amount of the race that you would still just start at the back rather than starting on pole. Because I know this, I've been a part of some sprint formats that's the case, where if you crash out, I mean, it's quite draconian in a way, but you know, if you don't make 90% of the race, then you can't start at the front. That's just to stop perhaps, you know, somebody who's got a lot of pace and has a bit of a bad day on a feature race or on the first of 2 sprint races perhaps, and just puts it in the wall and just thinks, well, I'll be on pole for the next one, I'll just go win that race instead, you know. So it's one of them things, but it'll be something that Craig Rollick, I think he'll fight as hard as he can for in that race too. And if there's any track to be on pole position for, is this track, because it is difficult to pass. I know these Formula 3 cars are fairly compact, fairly small, and don't take up too much track space, but it's still quite difficult, especially with the walls looming and the grass, you know, being the only sort of runoff area that you even have.
Okay, so I've just read through here. Rule 3.17 says you must finish a race to score championship points for your finishing position, assuming the driver manages to finish in the points by the scoring board. If a driver disconnects or does not finish the race, it will be classed as a DNF, and no championship points for how the driver finished will be awarded. Does not affect Rule 3.19 on bonus points, but it doesn't. A driver must finish at least 75% of the race or sprint to qualify for bonus points. Now, it doesn't necessarily state that he must complete 75% of the race to qualify for the reverse grid. positions. So that will be interesting to see how that one gets determined, because yes, the rule is there that says you must complete 75% of the race. Yes, it says you must complete, you can't DNF in general like Brolic has to basically sit there and get points, but it doesn't state whether or not he's allowed to take the reverse grid position.
Yeah, there's a loophole for you, isn't it? That'd be something that might be looked at going into future seasons, perhaps. Or I suppose if any of the organisers of the events are in the chat, just watching at the moment, perhaps they can clarify how they do things around here, because we're not too sure. Honestly, we're left scratching our heads a little bit, because it does seem a little advantageous to let's say if you are faster than some of the other guys on the track and you have a bit of a bad one and you just decide to retire, that you do just end up on pole position, which, I'm not saying that Craig Vrolic's done that on purpose, because we know how he crashed out of the race today, but it's something to think about, because it might be something that in future perhaps stops something that controversial from happening.
I think so. I think that's the thing. Whenever you're trying to do something, you need to make sure that you've got all bases covered, right? Because if you don't have all bases covered, it can be quite dramatic. And that's the thing. Many different things lead to different theories behind it all, right? And, it's generally the same with anything, whether it be in real life or within sim racing. Somebody somewhere will say something about something if it isn't ironclad, and that's the thing. And that is not ironclad. That does not state if Vrolic's allowed to take his pole position from 12th on the top 12 reverse. Now, obviously, that was probably written with the intention of having more drivers, so they probably felt they weren't ever going to be in that position to write that rule. But now they are in that rule. It would be interesting to see as Johnson's gone into the pits.
Yeah, why is he pitting? What's he doing? He's just going to give the lead to Zwemstra here. Did he get a drive-through?
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
It does look like. No, he stopped. I'm wondering if he didn't put enough fuel in.
Oh, no.
It has. It is literally a splash and dash for Alex Johnson towards the end of the race, and that's put him in 4th place. Oh, Alex Johnson down in 4th, making that error. And unfortunately now has lost a lead that's been handed to Kevin Zwemstra, with Aberdeen 2nd, Potts in 3rd, if Potts can hold on to that 2-second gap. But unfortunately for Alex Johnson, it looks like he did not put enough fuel in to get to the end of the race, and had to run in for a quick splash and dash before he completely ran out there, Kelsey.
Oh dear. I mean, he's so far ahead in the championship now that it's not going to affect him too much. But it's a rookie error, that one, being caught out on your fuel loads going into a race. And not the best look for Johnson, but he'll come home with a P4 with it. That promotes Jake Potts onto the podium, actually. So a good run for him at the moment. He's been one of the big benefactors out of that.
Yeah, it has. That will put him on to 177 points. Again, should be ahead of Mackenzie Roon. Roon is running, but he's down in 11th at the moment. So for Mackenzie Roon in 11th place will score 8. So as I go back and try and do some quick maths, 179. 177 for Potts, so there's only going to be 2 points between Potts and Roon going into this next race. Rachel Jimenez is going to jump Vermont, not going to jump Zwemstra, not going to jump Zalando or Aberdeen, but she will move up 1 place here as we're coming in to the final 2 laps of the race. And we're on lap 26 at the moment. We're going over to 27, and Mackenzie Roon is kind of handed, I think, a race win.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, he'll have to try and avoid mistakes. Well, Zwemstra handed a race win.
Sorry, Zwemstra, sorry.
But yeah, Rune, I mean, he'll be starting on the front row for the next race, so in that regard, he's handed a win. But yeah, Zwemstra, he'll take that happily, I think, because Johnson just ran away with it after a little while. Maybe he even was pushing so much that he actually burnt the amount of fuel that he thought was going to be okay for the length of the track, because he had been really going after Zwemstra for the whole race long, and it can make you just push and push and push being stuck behind the driver on a circuit like this, where if you can make your car as wide as possible, then no one's getting past you. And that's sort of the key to racing on a street circuit, I think, as when it comes to defending and or fighting for position. It's if you can be as wide as possible, and if you can be daring, you can make places up and defend them at the same time. Yeah,
this isn't your traditional street circuit, though, is it? It's not your Monaco. It's, it's defined as a street circuit, but it's kind of not. Do you get what I mean? It's not a Monaco-esque circuit, is it? And that, I think, most people look at is the defining line of a street circuit, and that's the thing. But I don't know if I would put Canada into that one as such. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it falls under those sort of hybrid circuits, doesn't it? Where it's got a lot of runoff, but it's almost like, think of Melbourne. It's the same situation with that track as well. But I think Melbourne's a little bit more open than this circuit, perhaps. But I think the two of them are often referred to as street circuits because of how close the walls are, and they're both built in parks as well. There's a big strip of water along the track next to the track, which is a rowing lake, and it's a park for all intensive purposes when they're not using it as a racetrack. So I guess, and the same goes for the Melbourne circuit as well over in Australia. They're both very similar in that nature, and they're not a Monaco, they're not a Baku, they're not a Marina. They're not any of those sorts of tracks. They're where the walls are just closed in, and they are proper, pure bred street circuits. These are a bit more of a hybrid, where you've got a little bit of space to play with, but not enough to be, too all guns blazing at a more open circuit, for example.
Yeah, well, I like this definition here of Gill Villeneuve. It says the 4,361 metre long track is situated in the centre of Montreal and almost combines the best elements of a conventional track and a street circuit. Now, one of the things that also makes this difference as well, as part of the Parc Jean Drapeau, the circuit is open to visitors between races for walking, running, biking, inline skating and driving, and Zwemstra is coming over the line to take this first victory here. Well done to Kevin Zwemstra. Lee Aberdeen and Jake Potts are coming over the line behind that as well. So a great job from Kevin Zwemstra for wrapping that up. So you can go for a walk, bike ride, inline ride, skating or whatever around this circuit during races, which I think is awesome.
One of the things I sadly didn't get to do when I was in Montreal on my holiday.
Well, you didn't go around there?
No, we didn't. We were only in Montreal for the weekend. We didn't have a lot of time. It was raining the whole time we were in Montreal as well. We were close to it, though. I think we were 2 islands over from the circuit itself. That's as close as to the circuit I'll ever get. But perhaps I'll go back next time and I'll make a point of, right, we're going to the circuit because I want to go walk around it.
Yeah, I either walk in or I'd love to jump on a little. I don't know. Yeah, biking on a mountain bike or something. Just poodling around. Do you know what I mean? I think walking 4,500 meters probably might need me to have a hip replacement by the time I get to the end of the circuit. You know what I mean? But I think I could do it on a mountain bike. Just poodle around on a mountain bike. I think that would be quite cool.
Take a few people, get a few mountain bikes, and have a race around there. Why not?
Yeah, that would be cool. See who ends up in the Wall of Champions.
Yeah.
As we wait for Navarro to come over the line here, guys. So that is the end of race 1. And we will be able to bring you up the results from race 1 here. Kevin Zwemstra is your winner with Lee Aberdeen second, Jake Potts in third. Alex Johnson, well, short-fueled himself, but unfortunately had to go in for a splash and dash. Frederick Højgaard in 5th, Rachel Jimenez 6th, Darius Rakaskas in 7th, Andre Zalander 8th, Thomas Urbanones in 9th, Carlos Navarro 10th, Kenzie Roon 11th, and Silas Craig Wojcik in 12th there as well. Now the question will be, will he be allowed to take that pole position? Well, we're going to find out very, very shortly. We have got a brief 5-minute warm-up here. So, yeah, a bit of time yet. But will this man be allowed to take pole?
Well, actually, just thinking about it, we've never actually had this situation.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, where we've had the driver in 12th place, DNF, and we're going into a sprint race, because we've always had, you know, just over 12 drivers for the last few races that we've had. So this is going to be an interesting one to see, because I don't think it's something that they maybe even considered as part of the rules as going in. And to answer your question, Tony Jimenez, Zwemstra and Salander are teammates. Yes and no. They're both Alcantech. However, Salander is Alcantech by MW Race Consulting, while Zwemstra is Alcantech by Nyman Racing.
So there we go. I hope that clarifies that situation for you. Mr. Jimenez, who of course will be on track later for the IGP. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one later on as well. You've got Biggles and Ewan O'Leary later. I'm on the Premier Endurance 2-hour endurance solo endurance race in GT3s at Road Atlanta. So that's going to be an exciting one as well. So you can join us for both of these that we'll be running this evening. If you are watching as well, don't forget, thumbs up, turn on the bells, hit the subscribe button as well. That would be absolutely stellar. 2.5 minutes near enough remaining of this now. Come on. We can get through this sprint without any major dramas, right? Surely we can.
We did it in Austria.
Oh, he's done it again.
Same play. It's so easy though. So easy at that corner. It's awful for it, because I think the thing is, when you got to try and do, you sort of compromise your first part of that corner, because you got to then try and be as straight as possible to be able to get on the power for the second part. But it's, you know, you're turning and you're slowly getting on, and it's an ice rink round there. No matter what time of year it is as well, it's so hard to get onto the power, and you know, some people are able to get on there sooner than others, and it becomes one of the most important corners to get right, actually, because it's, you know, I think the second longest straight part of the track that the circuit has. I think the longest being between turns 10 and 12. I mean, 11's not really a corner; it's more.
Is 12
in the way? Yeah, it's 12. Yeah,
it's 12 really a corner?
A little curve. Well, 11's not the one that's a contentious part, because it's a little bump. 12 and 13 are your.
Well, there we go. Look.
As far as this track I'm looking at is concerned.
Okay, so this is turn 11. Do we turn further left for turn 11 than we turn further right for turn 12? Because this is effectively what they class as 12, and we've just run it straight.
Yeah, sounds like it's not a corner.
No, it's not. That's what I mean. If we're going to delete turn 11, which I would love to delete turn 11, we got to delete 12 as well, because 11 is just, well, you turn more left for 11 than you turn right for 12. So I don't know, Kelsey. The northern part of the hemisphere over in America and Canada, as you know, do like their number corners. And look at Road America, for instance. You know, turn 2, is it really? Turn 4, is it really? You know, we say we go from turn 3 to 5, and I'm sure half the viewers sit back and wonder, what can't we count? Is 4 missing or something? And Road Atlanta later on, turn 7 down to that run down to the chicane at 10A and 10B. You know, the 8 and 9's on that straight, and I don't know if that's a corner either. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, they're not the only ones for it as well. Austria, turn 2. That's not a corner. That's not a turn.
No.
It's just a slight bend before you get to the braking turn 3. So it's just not really a corner there at all. I'm trying to think of some other tracks as well. I want to say there's one at Suzuka as well. Although I guess depending on what sort of machine you're in, is it? It's just after the hairpin. I can't remember the name of the corner.
The 200R.
It's a number 200R. That corner.
Yeah.
Depends on your machinery, but a Formula 1 car, I wouldn't consider that a corner. That's just a bend.
Yeah, Vrolik is in first, so he has got first. Mackenzie Roon second, Navarro third, Urban Owners fourth, Salander fifth. Rakauskas is in 6th, Rachel Jimenez 7th, Højgaard 8th, Johnson 9th, Potts 10th, Aberdeen 11th, and Kevin Swepstra there wrapping it up in 12th place. So after our wonderful debate about what is a corner and what is not a corner, we're also going to have another debate of whether or not Vrolik should be on the front. Well, unfortunately, that's not in our decision-making hands here, but we are going to be off and running for this 7-lap sprint race at Canada, and here's Vrolik out in front, who is going to take this first. There's some 2B2 all the way through. They're almost 3 wide further back with the Loomis Esports of Rachel Jimenez there alongside Højgaard Larsen. So they're almost running 3 wide as well. Zelander and Herbert Onas are going to be running 2 wide into turn 3 and 4. Are they all going to make it through? They are there as well. Rakauskas backs out of that one and leaves Herbert Onas there as well. Almost contact on the straight between Alex Johnson and Rachel Jimenez with Højgaard Larsen as well. All battling away. There's an incident.
Ooh. That looked pretty big. We might have to get some replays of that one.
It was Rakauskas, I think.
Boys caught up.
Bear with. Let's see if we can actually find a half-decent shot that doesn't put me behind the trees. As you can see, here is Darius Rakauskas alongside Rachel Jimenez at the moment as they're going into that corner. Kind of really do need a change. Oh, Rakauskas. You can't close the door there. I think that's the problem. Do you know what I mean? I'm wondering if the door closed and it didn't kind of need to. Well, hopefully might be able to get this if I can get it over the trees here. Yeah, we can. Oh, no.
I think he was too focused on the car ahead of him, personally. He was looking, I think he was maybe looking for a little run through there. Maybe he wasn't looking at where Rachel was on the track and then just sort of closed the door on it. But it is all on him, I think, on that occasion. I think he was trying to go for a move that wasn't even on.
I'm just wondering, though.
In all honesty.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether or not, from Rakauskas' point of view, right? I'm going to try and give a credit a little bit here, where credit is due. The fact that he was in front of Jimenez. Jimenez is a long way back. He's already turning by the point of contact. Do you know what I mean? I think when we talk about this alongside, if he's alongside at the turn, whoa! Somebody has not got a front wing. That is a Loomis car. That is Højgaard Larsen. Why has Højgaard Larsen?
That, I think, as well.
Can we?
I don't think he had anywhere to go.
No. I'm trying to see if we can get. Yeah, he is literally bare on that front wing. He has literally got nothing. The camera is seeing absolutely nothing. So at the moment, my camera is suspended in the midair there as well. So, but. You know, I don't think Urban Owners is going to go past him as well. I think Højgaard Larsen is going into the pits and needs to go into the pits very, very shortly. I think from Rakauskas' point of view, though, you know, he was already turning when Jimenez went to come up alongside. I understand that obviously if she's alongside at the apex, you know, he's got to leave room. But when he's already turning, does she have to leave room? Does he have to leave room? Oh, Aberdeen. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's an odd one, actually, because I think the angle... Ooh. Was that a touch on the grass, or did they make contact there?
I think there may have been contact there. I'm trying to see here. Oh, they did. Aberdeen's lost his front wing. What about Navarro? It's just straight. Navarro went straight back to the bits. I don't even think he had a choice on that one. But Aberdeen, another camera gone. My poor camera expenses this weekend is going to go up through the roof here. Where would you go with that? That's just... Okay, so this is the problem I have with that move that Navarro did. I can guarantee, right, Navarro's going to come out of this and he's going to say he had the position, right? That's what he'll say. And what he will then turn around and say is, I've got the right to take the racing line. My problem isn't the fact that you've got the right. I understand that. Now, what my problem is, and this has been a bit of a bane of my life, right, when it comes to certain things, is when he comes across, right, does he need to do that?
I mean, he chose to go defensive there, really, but I don't think there was much of a move on.
But it was a very late defensive move, wasn't it? And...
Oh, yeah.
You know, to then put himself right in front. Navarro's gone off the side of the circuit. Put himself in front of a car that can't see where he's going to go now. And he was going to miss his braking point all day. And this is where the bane of the contention comes, when you see drivers, and we see it in the JPB leagues, we see it in other leagues, they make the overtake, boom, they're straight in front of somebody else going into the braking zone. And you're like... Why do you feel the need to do that? Because if he hits you like Aberdeen just did, you'd be the first person to complain. But yet you're the one who's chopped straight off his vision and put your car straight in front of it. You don't do it on a motorway. I don't go past the car and then nip straight back in front of him. I don't get it. I don't get that maneuver. If he'd just stayed to the right-hand side, taken a tighter line in, he would have made it through. Not trying to chop the nose off somebody when there isn't room to do that, and B, he will now come out and complain about that.
Yeah, I think that's all on him. Personally, he chose to be in the middle of the track, then he moved over to try and take the racing line, but he probably shouldn't have done so. I mean, he may not have been aware of how close Lee Aberdeen was at the time, but that's still not much of an excuse, really. The rules of engagement when it comes to fighting amongst cars is you've got to be at least somewhat predictable, or as predictable as you possibly can be, without making too many, you know, rash moves. You know, weaving down the straight, for example, being something we tend to talk about fairly often, or moving in braking zones as well.
Yeah, you just can't do that. And then, as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out and moans. That was a bad decision, says Tony Jimenez. Now, I'm hoping you're talking about Navarro. Too close for the change of line, yeah. And that's the thing that people then will come out and moan. I made the overtake. I've got the right to take the racing line. Yeah, you might have. But what are you expecting the person to do when you're running across his front wing? He ain't Harry Potter, mate. He can't just Expelliarmus or Evaporatus or whatever it is to, you know, go off and disappear out of nowhere. He's got to go somewhere, and if you're going to cut off his line of sight like that, he ain't going to see nothing. It's like me putting my hands over the missus's eyes while she's trying to drive round a roundabout. That's bad enough with her eyes open, let alone with her eyes covered over. You know what I mean? Oh, Rune! No! Oh.
Kelsey, Rune.
And he had
Canada
second.
Strikes again.
Yeah, and he had second place wrapped up there. Did Mackenzie Rune on lap 6. He's got one more lap to go for Zalanda. Johnson's moved up into third. Rollick's now going to take this victory. And he's going to take it with about 4 seconds up the road there as well. So, unfortunately for Mackenzie Rune, not a bad evening, not a great evening of racing, not going to lie, as we're coming now down into the hairpin before we go over the final lap of this race. 1 minute and 30, probably about 35 seconds remaining. And it's going to be Vrolic's all wrapped up. I think that's literally spread the field out. Navarro's out. Rune's in the pits. He's going to obviously be out. Rakowskas has just had a crash, apparently, but I don't believe he is. He's still running, as Vrolic will come over to take that white flag for the final time here at Canada. It's been a sprint race. I'm trying to put it into words that basically defines the fact that it's not actually that bad. It's not been as chaotic as we have seen. Still isn't completely clean with 12 people, but it's better. I think that's what we can kind of get from that.
Yeah, I think your benchmark of, the sprint races we don't want to see is Belgium. We all remember what happened in Spa. We all remember the carnage that ensued at Les Combes. I'm sure the drivers do as well. I can't remember who it was who exactly did about 5 or 6 barrel rolls in the air, but I'm sure they remember exactly what that race was like as well. And it wasn't exactly Austria as well. So we've got some sort of middle ground as far as the sprint race is concerned. And, well, Craig Vrolic, he started on pole, didn't look back, did he? He's coming around the hairpin for the last time, making his way down the main straight to finish off the lap. Just don't put it in the wall, and he's got it.
Yeah, for the final time, Craig Vrolic here from the Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing is going to go over there through the final wall of champions, and he is going to come over the line and take that victory. Craig Vrolic, a great job. Then you've got Nyman NHR by MW Race Consulting in second, in third, and then Nyman Racing in fourth place. And then you got Jake Potts and Thomas Urbanonas coming over the line to round out the final race finishers. Højgaard Larsen, that is Urbanas over the line. Højgaard Larsen, Rakowskas, and of course Lee Aberdeen. So yeah, another interesting one, and on we go.
Yeah, a little bit of redemption for Andre Solander there. P2, not bad in a sprint race at all. Alex Johnson on the podium. Kevin Zwemstra didn't do too bad as well. I mean, the Alcantech boys kept out of trouble after all of that carnage on the opening parts of the laps. So well done to them.
Yeah, Solar's Craig Vrolic is your winner with Andre Zalander in second, Alex Johnson in third, Kevin Zwemstra in fourth, Jake Potts in fifth, Thomas Urbaners in sixth, Frederick Højgaard, 7th, Lee Aberdeen 8th, Darius Rakaukas in 9th, Rachel Jimenez in 10th, Mackenzie Rune in 11th, and Navarro 4 laps down in 12th there. So a very interesting one for these guys. And we have got Mr. Jake Potts, who has jumped in for a chat with us this evening, the man who took third in the feature, really, and then fifth in the sprint. Jake, welcome into you, sir. How are you?
Doing good. That was fun racing. Too bad we didn't have more people showing up, but I was glad to get a podium, my first feature podium of the season, so I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and yes, it is a shame, mate. Don't get me wrong. You know, not an ideal scenario that we've lost a bit of cars. But for you, at the end of the day, hey, I won't worry too much, because at the moment, that's put you ahead of Mackenzie Rune.
Yeah, I was watching. I saw he had looked like he had a pretty bad race today. So I finished ahead in both of them. So I figured that was going to give me a ton of points. So
yeah, it does put you ahead of him. You were 2 points behind going into this one.
Sweet.
Mackenzie Rune was in 11th for this. You were in 5th, so you scored 14. He didn't score that many as well. So you should be. It's going to be close, but you should still come out. Where did he finish? In 11th. He scores 2 points on the 2 already, so that's 4. You had 15, so that should put you 11 points in front, I hope.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
that was the sprint was really fun too. There was a really good pass I had going into that last chicane. There was like 5 cars that bunched up, and I think I got 2 cars going into turn 1. So
Yeah.
that's probably my best pass of the season too. So I was pretty happy about that as well.
Yeah, it did as well. It's been a good race here as well. We're going on to the Northern Grand Prix.
Road America.
Next week at Road America. How do you feel about that circuit?
One of my favorite tracks. I haven't done a whole lot of laps there, so I'm gonna have to get some practice in and message my teammates and see if I can get them to come out here on track with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jake, thank you so much for joining us there, bud. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
No shout outs today. Just appreciate you guys for streaming this thing and the league for making this happen.
Awesome stuff. Well, Jake, thank you so much for joining us there, bud. And look forward to having a chat with you next week.
Yeah, you guys have a good one.
And you, man. So as you've seen, guys, as well from the calendar, there are only 2 races to go. We have got the Northern Grand Prix at Road America, and we have got the Brazilian Grand Prix at my favorite circuit ever, Interlagos. I love that as well. So tune in for them. It is next week and the week after, guys, as well. But Kelsey, that's probably going to be about wrapping it up for us here this evening. You know, what do you think? Good racing considering the numbers?
Yeah, you know what? Decent racing considering the numbers. We had a little bit to talk about. There's a few moments where we perhaps had a little bit of a lull where we might not have done if there were a few more drivers on there. But I was fairly satisfied with the racing action that we got. And I think with a circuit like Canada, it made it more interesting because it was a challenge. The proof was in the pudding. You know, drivers were making mistakes here and there, and you know, it's a tough circuit. It looks easy on paper, but it's actually quite the devious little circuit in Montreal. So that made it all the more interesting. And yeah, on to Road America next week and Interlagos to finish it off. What a place for a finale.
Oh, yeah. Do love a little bit of Interlagos. But guys, that is going to wrap it up here as well. Don't forget, we've got 2 broadcasts later on. We've got the Premier Endurance UK GT3 in League in Championship from Road Atlanta. You can start that one. That one goes about 8 o'clock. And then you got the IGP F3s, of course, as well. So that goes off about 20 past 9. But guys, that's it. Going to wrap this one up for a moment. And thank you so much for joining us. I've been James Parfitt alongside Kelsey Gill up here in the JPB booth. But for now, guys, as always, take care. Have a great week. And you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.